This story happened back when I was working as a journalist for a newspaper that covered all sorts of topical stuff. Our newspaper was also accused of being yellow, however, it was well bought and published in color format. But get to the point. That day, I was about to leave the editorial office, literally standing with the keys on the doorstep, when the boss called me. I had a premonition of evil in advance, and so it is. Someone, right on Friday evening, urgently needed to paste into the almost ready-made issue a paid article about a certain businessman who literally built a garbage dump on the departmental territory and presumably had a good income from it. The territory was a wasteland about 20 kilometers from the city once they began to build a residential complex there, but it did not go beyond the pits dug for houses. The construction froze, and the pits turned into swamps over many years. Even wild ducks flew there. Well, a private trader organized garbage collection on this perilous territory 15 years ago. But now the authorities have caught on. We remembered the motto of the Russian people, "Not an inch to the enemy." Not otherwise, these spans will be distributed to large families, so they say we are improving conditions. In short, a clear picture. In turn, I was required to go to these swamp dumps and take a couple of shots. Piles of garbage, of course, flocks of crows or some other trash. But the wolf and the journalist, as you know, are fed by the legs, and I, emboldened by the double fee, got into the car. It was the end of March, I think, and by the time I got there, it was getting dark. That's the wasteland. I went out, and first I snapped the dump in all its splendor from a distance, a panoramic view, so to speak. Some of the piles were truly such that they could only be photographed with a cavity from afar, like their mother country. But it wasn't enough. It would be nice, I think, to film some dogs or some eyeless doll in a pile of garbage. However, this has already happened somewhere. Reasoning in this way, I moved straight into the depths of the dump. Oh, great shot. A dog's corpse lies sprawled in a swamp puddle and infects the water for large families. Ugh, it fucking stinks. I lifted the camera above me to take a picture from above. Suddenly I heard squelching footsteps and started. A human figure was approaching me. I felt uneasy, but I decided that there was nothing to be afraid of. If these were local homeless people, I would give them vodka and they would go away. Indeed, it was a homeless woman. Natural like a pancake, from the TV series about Lesh Nikolaev. I've always come across this series, and now I think about it. Horseradish knows how old the woman was. An alcoholic, of course, with a so-called lion's face from years of drunkenness. Dirty jacket, sneakers on bare feet, short matted hair. But she didn't seem to be interested in me as a potential gain. When she caught up with me, the homeless woman did not even raise her head, but muttered, however, stopping, "The piglet is mine." "Haven't you seen the piglet? Where the fuck is he?" I would have guessed that the woman was not herself or just drunk. So for some reason I answered, "No, mother, I haven't seen it." The homeless woman did not pay attention to my remark and squelched deep into the garbage cans to look for her piglet, probably. What the fuck is a pig? How would he be here? Hell knows him. Maybe the homeless have set up their own household here. For so many years. I took a picture of a homeless woman walking away in the sunset. It turned out spectacularly. Piles of garbage towered in dark, picturesque contours. It's a pity there wasn't a flock of crows. Deciding that it would be enough for the article, I hurried back. I still had to send the photos to the editor. I took out my phone to check the time. This pause suddenly focused me on the surrounding space. It was quiet. The wind carried rustling packages and boxes. A huge wasteland stretched out on all four sides. I felt uneasy. An inner tremor drove me to get back into the car as soon as possible. It seemed that some primordial fear of open space had worked in me. It felt like someone was watching me. Did the grass crackle? No, it seemed so. I turned around and quickened my pace. Suddenly, something flew at me and tried to knock me down. I fell on all fours into the liquid, smelly mud and reflexively kicked what attacked me. It silently bounced off, but I felt that it would not be easy for me to get away. I quickly grabbed a stone and tried to see the enemy. It was only a second, probably, But to this day, what I saw, my memory obligingly slips me in the nastiest features, like a photograph. Undoubtedly, it was a human being. Short, stocky, hunchbacked man or guy, it's unclear. But I think I noticed a mustache. Large, sparse teeth protruded from under the upper lip and protruded like false teeth. I was struck by the arms. They were short and crooked, like some kind of tyrannosaurus. And because of the hump in these arms, he really looked like an animal. A flat nape, small, expressionless eyes, and that hump huge, just huge. As I understand it, he moved on all fours, and this freak with the face of a degenerate also picks up a stone and throws it at me first. He hit me in the head and began to fumble with his stumps in search of the next one. I didn't have time to be distracted by the pain. I frantically estimated that I had to run at least 50 meters to the car. I threw a stone at him and pulled away. Vibalyadak galloped after me, breathing heavily and snoring. "Fuck you, freak, fuck off!" I shouted as loudly as I could. He tried to jump on me again, but he didn't get me. Oh my God, there's the car. While I was hesitating with the alarm, the garbage monster bit into my leg and bit through it. I screamed and kicked him, trying to shake him off and get into the car. There is. I slammed the door behind me and started the car with trembling hands. Meanwhile, it jumped on my hood and started banging some kind of stick on the windshield. How he didn't think to take a piece of rebar of some kind, I do not know. Then everything happened as it is customary to write, like in a fog. I started the car and accelerated straight to the trash can. The trash monster crunched softly and went limp between the tank and the bumper. Blood flowed from his mouth. I didn't even think about getting out of the car. While I was turning the car around, I saw in the mirror that the crazy homeless woman was rushing to the scene. I understand she heard my screams. In the headlights, I saw her run up to the dead freak and, instead of being surprised or screaming, busily dragged him by the leg deep into the garbage. "I've had a walk, piglet, fuck," I thought I heard her mutter. I still don't know if she said it or not because with the car running I could hardly hear what she said under her breath through the glass. I finally left this fucking dump, and the crushed corpse of the homeless bastard was still in front of my eyes. I was shivering and nauseated, my head ached, I must have suffered a concussion. But as it turned out, this was not the end of the story. When I arrived at the editorial office, I was too shocked to keep silent about what happened to me in the trash, and I had to explain the injuries and dirty clothes somehow. And I laid it out as it is. The police became interested in the case, and the scandal in the press turned out to be quite good. They say, not only the land was fucked up, but also a den of almost cannibals. And terrible details came to light. When the police came to the dugouts of those homeless people, and there were undoubtedly a lot of them in that place, they found several iron cages containing the children of these very homeless people, whom they gave birth to in a drunken stupor, the same imbeciles as themselves. And then they put them in cages for God knows why. Because of the crowding, they grew up to be awkward freaks and had no speech. They called them piglets. What remained unclear was whether they ate these bastards themselves or sent them to hunt for prey like me. In any case, many human and even infant bones were found nearby in the swamps. There was a big scandal, the dump was burned down and the bums went to hell. By the way, I hid the fact that I crushed that piglet. I said I just left there, and who would understand? The bums probably ate him right there. But after all, the thought that I killed this garbage monster still gnaws at me to this day. In the 16th century, a certain Arnold Paule, who lives in the village of Meduena, near the city of Belgrade, became widely known. In 1727, the young man returned home prematurely from military service. Paula told his future bride that while serving in the army, he met with some kind of immortal entity. He accidentally found her grave and tried to exorcise the devil from the body of the deceased. His attempt was unsuccessful, but since then the young man has been constantly haunted by the thought of premature death. That's when he decided to leave the service. For a while after returning home, it seemed to everyone that nothing strange was happening to Paula. He got his own piece of land and carefully looked after it. One day, while working in the field, a young man fell from a haystack and severely injured himself. Despite the fact that the wounds at first glance were not fatal, the unfortunate man died soon after. After his death, there was talk that Paole wanders at night, stalks people and drinks their blood. The rumors would have remained rumors, but many of those who had to meet the deceased soon fell ill and died. After that, people started talking about Paola as a vampire. Rumors of a terrible incident have reached Belgrade. 2 officers were sent from there to investigate the mystery. The rumors would have remained rumors, but many of those who had to meet the deceased soon fell ill and died. After that, people started talking about Paola as a vampire. Rumors of a terrible incident have reached Belgrade. 2 officers were sent from there to investigate the mystery. 2 military medical surgeons were also involved in the investigation. After consulting, the investigators decided to exhume the body. 2 officers, military medics, a gravedigger with assistants, and a boy who carried medical instruments went to the cemetery and opened Arnold Paol's grave. What appeared before their eyes horrified all the participants in the investigation. Here are the lines from the official report made after the exhumation. The body is turned on its side, the jaws are wide open, and the blue lips are moistened with fresh blood, which flows in a thin trickle from the corners of the mouth. The fearless gravedigger grabbed the body and laid it straight. It soon became clear that this was a vampire. He looked almost like he was alive. At the moment when the gravedigger touched the body, the outer skin peeled off and there were new nails under it. When the first wave of stupor subsided, people began to pour garlic on the deceased, then hastily prepared a wooden stake and pierced the vampire's heart with it. According to eyewitnesses, at the same time the corpse let out a terrible scream and carmine-colored blood gushed out. Then the investigators decided that it was necessary to dig up the bodies of several more people, whose death, they were convinced, was connected with Paole. They were treated the same way as a vampire. They pierced their hearts with wooden stakes. The remains of all 5 were set on fire and buried in the illuminated ground. Peace returned to the village, but not for long. After the death of several people, rumors reached Belgrade again that something unusual was happening in a famous village. A commission was sent again to check the rumors and take action. In her report, you can read about facts that cannot be explained. The fact is that the investigators again had to reproduce the events at the cemetery. At the same time, they recorded strange facts. In some graves, bodies were found perfectly preserved a month after death, and the bodies of others buried at about the same time completely decomposed. The commission concluded that an unexplained outbreak of vampirism had occurred in the village, and recommended that all suspicious remains be pierced with wooden stakes, which was immediately carried out. After that, no cases of vampirism were recorded in the village. Once upon a time, there was a boy. His name was Yura. He was an ordinary child like many children. Yura went to school, did his homework, smoked, drank beer behind garages, stole money from his parents, bullied, abused, cursed, and sat at the computer for hours. One day, his grandfather caught him stealing again. Yura was upset, and grandfather sat down on the sofa and invited Yura to sit next to him. "I won't tell my father and mother anything, and I'll even give you money. But first, I'll tell you a story. I was little too, and I often did bad things, but one day my father caught me stealing, just like in your case, and sat me down on the couch and told me this. Once upon a time, there was a family. Everyone was happy until one day the little son of a happy family reached into his father's pocket for money. The devil knows what devil got him confused, but before he could be happy, he was caught. The father grabbed his son by the hand and dragged him into the kitchen. He put down a stool, took out a huge knife from the cabinet, and put the boy's hand on the chair. Then he asked loudly and distinctly, "What were you looking for in my pocket?" The boy began to cry. Tears flowed down his pink cheeks. He screamed, "Dad, I wanted to take the money. Some money." Here the strict father swung and chopped off the boy's thumb. "Does it mean a little money? Couldn't you have asked?" And swinging again, he stabbed the boy's index finger with a knife. Blood splattered all around. The boy, terrified, began to yell so loudly that all the neighbors came running. He screamed and screamed, and the father continued to shake the boy, repeating at the same time, "I took someone else's. Get it. Son of a bitch, stealing from your own father. I'm humping this damn money and you're stealing." People ran in here and saved the child. Since then, the boy has not stolen anymore. His father was imprisoned, but then they released me. But this is not the end. The boy has grown up. He got married and had a son. Everything was great, but one day he noticed that money began to disappear from his pocket. And so the father decided to conduct an experiment. As he suspected his son of theft, hung a jacket with a wallet on the back of a chair, and left the room. His son immediately appeared and reached into his jacket pocket. The father saw this, and anger flared up inside him. He wanted to teach the scoundrel a lesson for stealing. Silently grabbing the same huge knife, the father suddenly ran into the room, which was a shock to his son. He screamed, "Dad, I'll explain everything." He threw the wallet away and backed away. "No need to explain anything. I'm going to wean you off stealing once and for all." He also cut off 2 fingers of the guy's left hand in cold blood so that the boy could write, "A caring father." Only the boy couldn't scream. He tightly covered his mouth with his hand. Then it all turned into an accident. The guy never admitted that his own father cut off his fingers. Although the neighbors reacted to this with some apprehension, the father does not have fingers and the son does not. Various rumors began to circulate and they left there. The boy Yura turned green with horror. He swore to his grandfather that he would no longer steal. And he was about to go when he suddenly froze. Lowering his head down, he looked at his grandfather's hands. My grandfather's right hand was missing 2 fingers, a thumb and an index finger. "Why don't you go, granddaughter?" Grandfather asked. The boy was shaking all over. Then the boy's father came into the room with a large knife in his hand. The boy noticed his father's hands and saw the same picture on his father's left hand. The boy, without saying a word, ran out of the room. His father watched him go, then looked at the old man and asked, "What is he doing?" "I caught him stealing now. You know what needs to be done." "Yes, father."